What's going on, everybody? Zen here. I have completely forgotten how to do intros for this kind of video. It's been so long since like the pitter patter pop era that I literally can't like remember what I'm doing. It's just so bad. This was like my fifth take to get here. But today we're talking about the ideal characters to reroll for. So you're starting a brand new account on Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade. You want to get the best possible start that you can. We're gonna be talking through all of the characters that I think matter. I'll say that. I'm not going to rank everyone, so you see all these characters down below. The only one missing off this list is the new domain expansion, Megumi, and I'll go over him a little bit too. But I want to talk through everybody that we have on here, and or I guess everyone that I think is relevant on here, and then the value that you're going to have if you get them. So the must-have, there's only 2 units on here that I think that are must-have for rerolls, and that is Yuta and Gojo. I think you need to have both of these guys on any reroll. If you don't have them, I consider that reroll a wash. Try again. These 2 are the best DPS in the game right now. Gojo is ridiculously broken. He can't take damage. His moves only cost 1 cursed energy to use at all times, so he never has to worry about managing his cursed energy. He is extremely strong, and his ultimate has a great multiplier. Yuta is another high-powered DPS. He's not quite as strong as Gojo, just because of that unlimited cursed energy. Gojo's attacks on his non-ultimate turns do a ton of damage. Yuta still hits really hard, especially with his skill 3. The Yuta and Rika tag combo ability is really good, does a lot of damage, and his ultimate's base multiplier is almost twice as high as Gojo's ultimate base multiplier. So Yuta also does a ton of damage. He also has a little heal that can proc if your characters drop below, I believe it's 60% HP. He will do a little heal for the rest of the party. He can't heal himself, but he can heal everybody else. Very strong character. I think Gojo is a little bit better. They're not ranked in the tiers or like in there or anything. I know Yuta's in the front. It doesn't matter. They're just in that same level. I do think Gojo is a little bit better, but Yuta is a limited character, and he's, only number 2 just like in the series, right? Number 2 only to Gojo is Yuta. So you'd want to have both of these guys for sure. Otherwise, the roll is a wash. Try again. So ideal optional units. These are going to be the units that I think you want to get on there. But if you don't necessarily have to keep trying. And that's going to be Suguru Geto, it's going to be Principal Yaga, and it's going to be the SR version of Nanami. These guys are incredible. I think an ideal reroll has all of them. I know that that's annoying and not fun to do, but you do get a lot of stuff to pull with right now for rerolls. You get, I think it's like 14,000 currency, and a multi is 3,000, so you get a lot of attempts. Both Yuta and Geto are limited characters. They are gone on January 3rd. You will not be able to get them anymore. So you really do want to try and get your hands on them quickly before they go away. I also think the new domain expansion Megumi would probably fit either in here or in the one just below. Actually, I think I would probably slot him in down here. So, but anyway, ideal optional units. We've got Geto, we've got Yaga, and we've got Nanami. So Geto is in a unique position. He is not a buffer character. He's actually a debuffer. And his abilities change based on how much cursed energy he has when he uses them. He is great with Gojo, because they are the same type, so they're able to just destroy any stage that's weak to them, and they end up being such a powerful combination that they can burn through other stages as well, just fine. Geto debuffs the exact thing that Gojo attacks. Even with his regular attacks, he debuffs Jujutsu damage. So your opponents will take additional Jujutsu damage whenever they have Geto's debuff on him. And Geto also has a high-powered nuke ultimate, just like Yuta and Gojo. The difference with Geto's is that his damage output scales for that ultimate based on how much cursed energy he has when he uses it. So you want to make sure that you have as much cursed energy locked and loaded on Geto as you can before you fire that off. but it's amazing high-powered damage with Yuta, with Gojo. He's just very solid all around. Principal Yaga is the best buffer in the game. He gives a strong buff to both types of offense. There are two types of damage in this game. There's melee and there is range. That's the easiest way to think of it. Technically, it's taijutsu and jujutsu. Easiest if you just think of it as a melee attack or like an energy attack. Yaga buffs them both. His buff can stack multiple times, so you can just keep cranking that buff to power your characters up more and more and more and more. And his ultimate and his skill 3, I believe, but especially his ultimate, reduces your enemy's defense, so it makes them take more damage from your incoming attacks. Technically, the debuff is increased damage taken. It's not reduced defense, but so he actually increases the set amount of damage that your characters are doing, as opposed to just lowering your opponent's defensive stats. He's incredible, the best buffer in the game. Second buffer, only to Yaga, is the SR Nanami. Ideally, you run them both together. I think the best team in the game right now is these 5 characters. Yaga, Nanami, Geto, Gojo, Yuta. Some people may disagree with me for other things, but I think the best general use party is this 5. Nanami also has a stacking buff that can stack multiple times. It's a buff that increases his own stats and then everyone else's a little bit differently, so he gives everybody else a little bit less attack than he gives to himself, but it's still a ton of attack for your entire party. So you're able to just keep buffing over and over with him to hit those insane numbers on Yuta and Gojo. So ideally, the perfect reroll will have all 5 of these guys on it. If you don't want to do that, must have Yuta, Gojo. Don't go anywhere without Yuta and Gojo. But ideally, you will have all 5. So, good but not necessary. So these are characters who I think are strong and useful, but not something that you need to like worry about or super celebrate getting or anything like that, I guess I should say. They're good characters that you probably want to have, but it's fine to let them come over time as you play. This game gives away a lot of summon tickets for free. So don't worry about like, oh, I gotta get everything in the reroll. You'll probably get a lot of characters, even SSR characters, over time just by playing events and stuff. So, gonna go ahead and start that off with Yuji Itadori. He is fine, pretty good. He's kind of held up by the fact that he's the only offensive character right now that is an SSR that's green, without some weird restriction on it. So you see the other 2 green SSRs we have down here in the bottom is a Panda and Nanami. Panda is a tank, so he's not really a huge damage dealer. He does shift into an offensive mode when you use his ultimate, but Yuji is a much more consistent damage dealer. And then we have Nanami, who has 2 problems. One is that he really doesn't pick up his actual power until overtime kicks in, so he gets a nice buff, he gets some cursed energy back, he gets some stat increases. But that's not until, I believe, turn 9. So 9 turns need to go by before Nanami hits his full potential. And then also, you can't have 2 characters with the same name on the same team. So you can't use the SR Nanami and the SSR Nanami at the same time. So Yuji kind of becomes the de facto representative of green for offense, and that kind of carries him up here. Otherwise, he would probably be a little bit lower, but he's still good. Another one we've got is Nobara. Nobara is extremely good. The only thing that I think really kind of holds her back is that the new Megumi just came out, and in my opinion is better than her, and they share the same type. They're both yellow. But Nobara is still incredible. Very strong unit. I think she and the new Megumi are the 2 units that I would consider the best that aren't necessary in a reroll, if that makes sense. She's very strong, totally worth having. If you get her in your good reroll, be very excited about it. She's completely worth having. You can sub her in for any other character that you don't get on an offensive build. Very strong. I really wish the new Megumi was on this. I guess I could have probably put her on there myself, but you know, whatever. We'll just use this one to sub in for him. Note, I'm using this guy as the new domain expansion one that's available now. I'm being very clear about that, so someone looking at this screenshot doesn't realize that I'm, putting this Megumi this high. The new domain expansion Megumi is very strong. I don't think that he's necessary to get on a reroll, but he is very strong. Does a lot of damage. He is the first domain expansion unit, so he has a lot of unique functionality right now that other characters don't have. He's very cool, very good, very strong. Not ideal, but amazing to have. Not this one, the new domain expansion one. I just don't have a picture for him. Stick, use your imaginations. You can do it. The other characters I'm going to put up there is going to be Toto. Toto's really cool. I really like him. He is a good buffer for one other person. He has some neat debuffing with the ability to confuse opponents with Boogie Woogie. He makes a great team up with a physical attacker. So someone like Yuji, someone like Yuta, a lot of Yuta's damage is physical. Toto is really good with them. Not super crazy, but I like him a lot. I think he's very strong. He is, I would consider, high value. Some people might disagree with me on that. I would consider him high value. And then kind of Panda as well. Kind of the same thing as Yuji, by virtue of the fact that there's not a whole lot of tanking units in this game. I think Panda is fine value to have for that reason alone. He would probably be a bit lower if there were more tanks. He is the only tank in the game right now, unless you do some wacky shenanigans with the memory that lets you increase aggro onto one of your other characters. Like I know there's a whole thing going around with like tank Gojo, where you can put the tank memory on him and direct attacks to him that then are blocked by his limitless. But I prefer to just run Gojo as a DPS pure. So Panda has a little bit of value purely based on the fact that he is a tank in a game that doesn't have a whole lot of tanks. Another person I'm going to put up here is Momo, Broom Girl. She is a buffer. She does not rank quite as high as Yaga and Nanami because her buff does not stack as many times as theirs does, nor does it last as long as theirs does. She gives a strong buff, but it fades pretty quickly, so you really can't stack it up like that. Still a really good buffer, especially if you don't have Yaga or Nanami and you're in need of another buffer on the team. She's great to have, very strong. Next up, we're going to put R. Inumaki, purely for one reason alone, and that is his ability to stun enemies with an extremely high probability. So he has the highest probability stun in the game. It's still not 100%, but it's very high up there. And it allows you to cheese a lot of fights, and in some fights, they're a good example is like the Jogo fight where he uses his domain expansion. If you can delay him from laying into you guys as long as possible with Inumaki, it makes the fight a whole lot easier. So Inumaki is very strong. I know he's an R unit, but he is very endgame capable on that stun alone. Not a whole lot of other value to him, but that stun alone is very good. And the other R character is going to be the original character from this game. He's been made for this game. His name is Kaito, I believe. He's very good for a couple of reasons. He can give a cursed energy regen to the entire party. So he has an effect where all of the entire party will get some additional cursed energy at the end of every turn. Not a very common buff, so it's very useful, especially on teams that have, like a Geto Yuta combination. That combination eats a ton of cursed energy. They use a lot of it to get all of their moves out, and Geto especially needs a lot of cursed energy to get his maximum value. So Kaito becomes very good in getting those stats up, getting that cursed energy bar filled. He also has an ultimate that increases the entire party's damage output for a little bit. It's a strong buff, but it is relegated to an ultimate, so you're not going to get to use it very often, but it is nice to have. His main value comes out of that cursed energy. And then the fine but nothing special, these are going to be units that, I think are neat or fine just to have, but aren't anything to write home about. That's going to be Nanami and Inumaki. They're okay. Nothing special. We talked about Nanami a little bit. Inumaki's also pretty cool. He's solid, not amazing. I wouldn't put him up anywhere near like Yuji or Nobara when it comes to reroll value. Remember, this is not a tier list based purely on like performance. This is a tier list based on who you want to have in a reroll, right? So just remember that. But I think they're both pretty neat. I wouldn't be upset if I had them, you know. But they're not anything really to write home about. Nothing to be excited over, but they're not detrimental or anything. And then the other SSRs, just going to put all the SSRs on here. These guys are in the no category. The original Megumi, the blue one, Maki, and Junpei. Hard pass on all of them. Nothing really particularly spectacular out of them. Anything that they do, somebody else does better. Like, you know, Megumi's got some AoE potential for a blue, but Geto can also do that. Maki's got some physical damage output, but she's completely outclassed on that by both Yuta and Yuji. There's just no need to really use her. You can use anybody down here. Obviously, you can use anybody in the game to do anything if you really want to. Nothing in them that I think is particularly valuable at all. So if you get them in, you know, an ideal reroll, they don't hurt you by any means, but as far as value in your reroll, they don't really add anything to it, in my opinion. The two SSRs that I'm not ranking on here are Jogo and Hanami, and that's because they are not rerollable. They come from an event shop, so can't reroll those guys. And I don't really think that any of the other characters are super high value. There are some other stunners in here. Kamo can stun a little bit. The R Megumi that I'm using to stand in for the SSR domain expansion Megumi can stun, but the existence of Inumaki being, you know, an R rarity, very easy to get, and also having a higher stun rate than them kind of just tanks their value to near zero. I'm sure people can make a case for all of the other characters that I'm leaving off the list across the bottom as to why they might fit into one of the other areas. I'm not really too worried about them. I guess we'll put Shoko in there. Shoko's a healer. She's a dedicated healer. Often you don't need healers in this game. There are memories that can heal. Yuta's heal is fine. It's not really a huge value thing, but he does have it. And you kind of just nuke in this game. So the odds of fights dragging on too long pre-endgame to need a healer is not very high, but she's fine if you've got her. Otherwise, so this is my take on rerolling. Again, remember, this is not purely based on their ability. This is based on their value added to an account in a reroll, right? So if this was ability based, I would shift some people around. But this is purely just what they bring to you when you are rerolling for them. Yuta, Gojo, gotta have them. Don't get them, drop it. Drop the account. Ideally, you also get Geto, Yaga, and SR Nanami. An account with all 5 of those is, in my opinion, a star-studded reroll. Keep it, no matter what. Always keep it. The rest are just okay. The good column, or the good row, I guess it's a row. Columns are up and down. The good row, if you've already got Yuta, Gojo, and you don't care enough to keep going for the ideal optionals, these are good characters to slot in to take their place that work just fine, in my opinion. They're very strong at what they do. Fine, but nothing special are kind of just like, hey, if you get them, more power to you. And the no characters are no thank yous. So that is the list of reroll characters. This, again, is a reroll list only. Let me know how it goes if you are rerolling. Let me know who you're rerolling for. If you're rerolling, like if you know, more power to you if you want to get Nobara, or, you know, you want Yuji as your main DPS just because you want to play who you like, more power to you. And I will see you in the next video. We'll talk about some character overviews. We'll probably start with Gojo because he is just kind of the undisputed top dog right now, and then we'll go on from there talking about some other characters. But for now, here is your reroll list. Happy rerolling. Sorry this came out so late. You've only got about 3 more days to get Yuta and Geto, so I hope that you do. I could make a post list for Yuta after Yuta and Geto, I guess, but I don't think it's really necessary. Once Yuta and Geto are gone, you can just kind of fill in with the good but not necessary row here. So thanks for checking this out. Happy rerolls. I hope they are exactly what you're looking for, and I will see you in the next one.